Have you ever wanted to achieve a multi-day hike but aren't in a position to do it all at once? Are you a day hiker looking to progress your hiking skills? In this video, I'm going to discuss how I've achieved a broad range of multi-day hiking tracks all over Australia, but from a day hiking perspective. I've applied these same strategies to tracks like the Three Capes track in Tasmania, the Cape to Cape track in Western Australia, the Grampians Peaks Trail in Victoria, and the Aussie 10 Peaks in Kosciuszko National Park, which is what we're doing a very deep dive into today and over the next several videos. Why might you want to give these strategies a try? Well, maybe your fitness isn't quite where you had hoped it would be, or you're really busy and just can't carve out that chunk of time that you'd need for 4 or perhaps 5 days in a row to achieve the entire trail. Perhaps you don't feel confident to take on all of it at once, or don't want to camp out overnight in alpine conditions. Maybe you don't have the correct gear that you would need to stay out on trail in that sort of environment. Australia's highest 10 peaks can all be found in Kosciuszko National Park in New South Wales, Australia. Be warned though, the Aussie 10 Peaks hike isn't a track. It's best described as a route which combines a mix of on-trail, on-formed track walking and completely off-trail walking. Access can be found either from Thredbo at the Dead Man's Gap car park, or you can catch the chairlift at Thredbo, or you can drive around and access the area from Charlotte Pass. Many of the Aussie 10 peaks can be found near the main range track. Others, though, lay further afield, out in the bush, and so they require you to be able to follow a topographical map or a digital map, because you're going to be walking quite a bit away from the main range track to access those. From my own experience, the best time to give this hike a try is between very late in November or early December, right through to around mid-April. Expect some snowy sections, and what I've found is that every year that I've visited the park during the same months, the weather and the snow layer is quite different. Some years there'll be no snow, some years there'll be quite a bit of snow. Distance-wise, depending on whether you choose to add in some other summits, in total you can expect to walk between 44 to 78 kilometres as you cover all of your groups. So individual groups all add up to somewhere between 44 to 78 kilometres on average. This route is also graded moderate to hard, or between the grading system of 3 to a 5. You might be wondering, which are Australia's highest peaks by altitude? Number 1, at the top of the list, the highest is Mount Kosciuszko, 2,028 metres. Number 2 is Mount Townsend, 2,209 metres. 3 sits Mount Twynham, 2,195 metres. 4, Ram's Head, 2,190 metres. Number 5 is an unnamed peak on Etheridge Ridge, 2,180 metres. 6, Ram's Head North, 2,172 metres. 7, Alice Rawson Peak, 2,160 metres. 8, Abbott's Peaks, and there's 2 of them. They both sit around 2,145 metres. Number 9, Carruthers Peak, 2,145 metres. Mount Northcote, 2,131 metres. And number 10 is Mueller's Peak, 2,129 metres. Now, the lists do vary a bit. It depends whether you are choosing to do only the named peaks or whether you're interested in the true highest points, because there are a couple of unnamed peaks that you could also do. And I've named one of them on Etheridge Ridge Peak. The key to being able to achieve a multi-day hike from a day hiking perspective is to be able to break up your day's hiking into manageable chunks or zones. And I've learnt the hard way, be honest about where you are in your fitness journey. You know, you may have been training for months, but perhaps you haven't quite reached the level that you were hoping to achieve, or you could be in a situation where you're recovering from a virus or some sort of little bug, or like I was, perhaps you're recovering from some sort of an injury or a bit of a accident. And when you're in that situation, the best thing to do is to adjust your hiking plan to make sure you're absolutely meeting your fitness level and your abilities at that given time. And you know, that's exactly the situation I was the very first time I attempted the Aussie 10 Peaks. And I did it as a day hiker, came back later to do it as a multi-day hiker. But on this first attempt, I'd had a bit of an accident, a bit of a nasty fall in the little lovely town of Bright. And for me, it wasn't so much an injury, but it was to do with spinal pain. And so whenever I'm hiking in any situation, whether it's from a day hiking perspective or a multi-day hiking perspective, my goal is always to enjoy the heck out of it. So in this case, I adjusted my hiking plan, and I do that on any given day for any of the little individual groups that I do. I make sure I'm matching how I'm feeling on that particular day. I called my adventure the Aussie 1016 because I added in as many peaks as time permitted. So the ones I added in were number 11, Mount Defer, which is 2,159 metres, 12, Tennyson Woods Knoll, 2,134 metres, 13, Mount Little Twynham, 2,131 metres, number 14 was Middle Rams Head, 2,120 metres, 15, Mount Glee, 2,106 metres, 16 was Mount Clark, 2,101 metres, 17 was Kangaroo Ridge, a high point of that area, 2,079 metres, number 18, Mount Stillwell, 2,054 metres, 19, South Rams Head, 2,052 metres, number 20, Watson's Crags, 2,024 metres, and lastly, the Sentinel, which is only 1,905 metres, but wow, that's a dynamic summit indeed. So let's have a look how I chose to break all of the summits up. Firstly, Group 1 was Mount Kosciuszko, 228 metres. Group 2 was Mount Twynham, Mount Anton and Little Twynham. Group 3 was the Sentinel, Carruthers Peak, Mount Lee, Mount Northcote and Mount Clark. The fourth group were all the Rams Head, so Rams Head North, Rams Head Middle and also Rams Head South. Group 5 was Mueller's Peak, Alice Rawson Peak, Mount Townsend, the two Abbott's Peaks on the Abbott's Range, Mount Defer, Byatt's Camp, little extra little one, and also the high point on Etheridge Ridge. What else? Oh, group 6, our last group was Mount Stillwell, Kangaroo Ridge High Point, Little Stillwell, and the Foxhole. So that's how I chose to break all of my summits up. Let's dive into the gear that I would pack in my day pack, and also some of the safety aspects to take into consideration when I'm doing a remote area day hike like the Aussie 1016. You know, firstly, I always write a hike plan, and I write that for every group of summits that I'm doing. So 6 groups, 6 days over a broader range of time. So that means 6 individual hike plans. Now in those hike plans, and I will do an in-depth video of those later on, but for now, the basics for the Aussie 1016, I'd include information like the maps, very detailed of where I'm planning to go, showing where all the summits are, showing where the furthest summit out is and how far approximately my walk back to the trailhead is from that summit. I also include how many check-ins I'm planning to do, and also the approximate locations of where I'm planning to take my food or rest breaks during the day. And I communicate all of that with my safety contacts. And in my case, I have several predetermined safety contacts that track every footstep I take, no matter where I'm going. And I use my iPhone for them to track me via the turning my location services on in the Find My Friends app, and also my PLB GPS tracker. So I also use that. I would never hike anywhere without this, and I've never had to use it in an emergency situation, but hey, you just never know when that day might come. What I do use it for is I have a predetermined check-in time each day that I check in with my safety contacts, and for me that's usually around 4 o'clock, and it sends a little message saying that everything's on track, doing well. Now, thinking about the technology side, I don't want to have my devices running out of power, particularly the phone. So I always take a power bank with me, and in this case it's a 10,000 milliamp power bank, so I'm going to be good with that. And let me think now, when you're talking about, or what I like to think of is, how would I go if I was caught out overnight on trail for whatever reason? Maybe I've had an injury, and the situation might be that I've communicated with my safety contacts or with emergency services, and you can't expect for any of them to come quickly if you're in that situation. So I think, right, how can I be responsible for myself overnight over trail? So let's talk about the ground layer on the ground. So I'd start off with laying at night time when I'm wanting to sleep and stay warm. I'd start out with a space blanket. Next, I like to lay down my 3mm gossamer gear foam mat, and it's about 1.2 meters long. And then I would lie down myself in all of my layers, and then I would like to, I'm imagining all this, I pack my reactor sleeping bag liner, which you could use a flannelette sheet, anything that's going to give you another layer of protection. And then over the top of that sleep system, I would place a hoochie. Now, a hoochie is a bit of a tarp that comes from the army services, and it's a tarp that you can wrap yourself around in. You can string it between trees, not that you're going to find trees up there, but you can wrap it around you to add that extra layer of protection. Headlamp, if I haven't already mentioned that. I think about mindset and areas of what would bring me comfort in that situation. In my case, nothing makes me feel happier on trail than having a nice hot drink, a cup of soup, cup of tea. So I pack my jet boil stove, a cup, and food-wise, of course, I'm going to pack all of the food that I anticipate that I need in that day, but I also pack one main meal, a dehydrated meal, so I can have something hot if I'm caught out overnight, along with a couple of extra snacks. You know, I think from a mindset point of view or morale side that would make me feel pretty good if I was caught out overnight. But during the day, of course, a hat and also sunscreen. What have we got left? Oh, alpine clothes layering system. So start out hiking in something like this. I also pack a full head to toe length merino layer. So that includes heavy duty merino long johns, full sleeve top, a beanie, or perhaps a buff, a merino buff, because you can use that as a beanie as well, and also some gloves. And you're going to need to gather some water during the day, just so that you're not carrying your full day's hydration needs, because if it's warm, you know, you might drink up to 5 litres that day. So I like to capture it from the creeks, and I capture it in a 2 litre bladder, and I treat it with my 1 litre Be Free system. And then lastly, there are toilets located at the top of the chairlift at Eagle's Nest, also at Rawson's Pass, at Charlotte Pass, and at Seaman's Hut. However, where most of the peaks are located off in the wilderness, there's no toilets at all. So I don't go anywhere without my toilet kit, because it's always important to leave no trace. I do pack a fairly basic first aid kit, but what I do like to include in thinking about, if I was caught out overnight, I like to pack my medications that I'd need for the nighttime and also for the morning. So there you have it. I think that's pretty much most of the gear that I take. The size of my pack is a 28 litre. I usually take a day pack that's either 25, 28 or a 30 litre day pack, and I always take my trekking poles. They're really important as well. Well, day one ended up being a warm-up hike. It didn't go as planned, not even remotely. And the reason was I'd had a bit of an accident in the little township of Bright a couple of weeks ago, and I'd had a bit of a fall out of the car on bitumen, a bit of a hard fall. And whilst I didn't actually have any injuries, my spinal pain was sky high. I think that day it was sitting at an 8 out of 10, and in that situation I was feeling really nauseous as well. So I was supposed to be achieving my Group 2 summits. So I was supposed to be entering from Charlotte's Pass and achieving Mount Twynham, Mount Anton and Little Twynham. However, because of how I was feeling, I decided just to be kind to myself, and I just hiked up to Blue Lake and return. And because I was feeling really, really unwell that day, I took a range of photos but no video, or not very much video. And then day 2 was a lot more positive. I gained my Group 1 objective, which was Mount Kosciuszko, 2,028 metres. And that all went really smoothly, no problems at all. I entered via the Thredbo side. I took the chairlift, just being kind to myself once again. And as far as all the other groups go, I will be publishing a video for each of those groups. So there are 6 groups in total. So there will be 5 videos, 4 more to come. So look out for those. And as always, I do want to express a heartfelt thank you so much for watching. You know, I really do hope you feel that you've gained some reasonable information in order for you to take on a multi-day track somewhere in Australia, but from a day hiking perspective. So bye for now.